Now live on Facebook, YouTube, Facebook group, Facebook page, all over the place. Welcome you guys. So we are doing a bonus session on passive income. And first of all, I want you to go in the chat and tell me how many of you guys are already doing passive income in some way or another. Put a yes or a no in the chat. How many of you guys are already doing passive income in some way? Yes or no, go in the chat. So I'm seeing some yeses, I'm seeing some nos, I'm seeing some yeses, I'm seeing some nos. Okay, so here's the thing. So back in the day when mommy and daddy told us to grow up, get married, have a kid, and get a white picket fence, and then, and then every financial advisor tells you to have a kid, get married, and get a white picket fence to be able to write off some taxes. They missed the conversation about it's not about working harder to be able to create wealth. And so many people, and I used to be like this category myself, where I felt like I felt the pressure. Who feels the pressure of making money? Who feels the pressure of making money? I felt the pressure of making money. And in that pressure of making money, I kept feeling like I should be further ahead than I am. Anybody else have that experience? Put yes, right? Anybody else have that experience? Put yes. You feel like you should be further ahead than you are. So that is under the context that how long it takes to make money. Do you understand what I'm saying? So as you get better at making money, you can make money quicker. But the deal is you want to be able to take money and you want to be able to create money so you can create passive income. And you can do that without a PhD. You can do that, without, a master's degree. You can do that with a high school education. You just need to be in the room with the right people. So I'm going to ask my friend Jorge Contreras to come up. Hey, Jorge, how are you?
I am excited to be here with all these powerful leaders who are creating life-changing results here. Thank you so much for having me. It's really an honor.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. I see a bunch of people starting to jump on now, and it's good because so there's lots of ways to create passive income, and most of them are very complicated. And also, like Jorge, you can attest to this. There's many passive income games that require you to have a lot of cash flow. And so, I know I'm an accredited investor. And an accredited investor means that you have to have a good amount of money to be able to invest in things, millions of dollars to be able to invest in things before they'll even take your money to get into a passive income game. Do you guys know that? I didn't know that for a long time. And so the problem is there's a high barrier to entry. And so I want to get everybody I can into the category that they can be an accredited investor, because there's some sweet deals out there that help you leverage your life so that you can truly be on the back of a yacht in the south of France, if that's your choice. That's mine. And have a good time and know that your money is making money. And we've all heard it, right? Your money should be making money. Your money should be making money. But you're like, how? So Jorge, one of the things that I love about you is you bring the passive income game into everybody's living room. You know what I mean? You bring it into everybody's living room. All they need to have is a little courage to be able to go after it, and some education. That is, I've been telling everybody, like, you taught me on the back of an envelope. I wrote on the back of the envelope what to do. And then I'm executing on that now. And I'm sure I won't do everything right. I'm sure I'm going to make some mistakes because Jorge doesn't know what my leadership level is. So he just gives me the strategy and I go off and I do it. I'm going to have breakdowns. When I have breakdowns, I can come back to Jorge and say, oh my God, this happened to me. And then he's going to go, okay, yeah, here's how you handle it. Right? So what are we talking about, Jorge? Give us your story.
We're going to talk about how to create not just financial freedom, but more importantly, time freedom and location freedom by starting a short-term rental business. Airbnb has become really popular in the last decade. I know that Shonda just launched an Airbnb and is creating some incredible results. And this is going to be fully automated while she's living part-time in Puerto Rico. And so I know that a lot of people are not in a position, like the best way to start a short-term rental business is by owning real estate. But a lot of people are not in a position to go and buy two or three properties, especially right now with interest rates rising. So we're also going to talk about two other strategies where you can do the arbitrage model, where you rent properties, get permission in writing, and then launch them as an Airbnb, build your capital, accelerate your savings, and then go and start buying properties so they can create long-term wealth.
So good, so good. Can you give them a little bit of background on how you got started on this? Because now you're a millionaire doing what you're doing, and it's really cool because I just think it's just cool to see all the different ways you can make money. And the first thing I said to her is like, I don't want to like own a bunch of property and like be like a landlord. And he's like, okay. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, I have three properties and they're going to be sitting there not making any money, which means that it's sucking my, who knows what my life looks like in 10 years from now, or you know what I mean? Like it's just kind of irresponsible
Absolutely.
to have a piece of real estate just sitting there because I don't want to rent it because it's my home. I get it. But if you could create an incredible vacation, because there's lots of ways to do short-term rentals. If you can create an incredible vacation for people and you can have good renters where your house is not in trouble, right? Or you got a painter that come in before you come home and repaint the house because you've made so much money on your real estate. Why wouldn't you take that extra cash? Do you guys hear what I'm saying? Yes or no? Go in the chat. Right. And so tell us a little bit about your story. How'd you get into this?
Yeah, absolutely. So my first business, I started 15 years ago. I was a professional dancer, got to travel all over the world. But the problem is that I ran my business just like a job. So I always refer to that as my 9 to 5 because the business needed me in order to continue to operate. If I went on vacation for 2 weeks, money would stop coming in. So it was no different than a 9 to 5. I was overworked, underpaid, trading time for money. And one of the things I've learned right through leadership is that we are always doing things in our life in order to validate the beliefs that we believe to be true. And so
Say that again. It's so important.
we are always living our life and taking actions that support in order to validate the beliefs that we believe to be true. Right. And that's why the number one thing we can do. And I'm so glad that this is what you do is transform people's lives, upgrading, the software, upgrading and, transforming from limiting beliefs to living life by design. And so I had this belief that work hard equals success. Anybody else here grew up with that belief? Drop a comment, say me if you grew up or still believe that working hard equals success. And so what I learned is that what got you here won't get you there. So working hard got me to a certain level, but to go to the next level, it was about working less and working smart and passive income. So in the process of working hard as a professional dancer, I got to the point where I couldn't dance, I couldn't work out, I couldn't run, then I couldn't walk. And then I was laying on the floor because I couldn't stand up. I had a herniated disc in my L5S1, and working hard got me a back surgery where the doctor said it was a 50-50 chance I would never walk again. Wow. Can anybody relate here? Maybe health challenges, emotional, mental, spiritual, just because you're working so much that you're sacrificing time away from the people you love. You can't travel. You're essentially living a life by default rather than life by design. And so for me, I was like, there's got to be a way to make passive income. Like, how do I make money without trading my hours for dollars? And that's how I came across real estate. And
Hold on 1 second. I just want to ground this. That's a question everybody should be asking. Is there's got to be a way. There's got to be a way to whatever blank. So whenever somebody tells me it's impossible, like I was told, it's impossible for you to get your U.S. citizenship because you didn't get it before you're 18. Your dad's American. Da, da, da. I'm like, there's somebody that knows. So like you're like, there's got to be a way, and I was like, there's somebody that knows. And in this challenge, I'm trying to bring people that know to the forefront so that you guys can meet them. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's just really important because who you know and who knows you is really, really important instead of just listening to the gab of the people around you who might be sweet, but are not creating the future that you want. You see what I'm saying? Like you gotta get out ahead so you can help them. So I always say there's somebody that knows, there's somebody that knows, there's somebody that knows. And I had a back injury. My husband has one right now. And for 90 days, 4 months, I was in a 90-degree angle walking. And I kept just saying, I went through the MRI process. I have herniated discs. And I just kept saying, I know there's somebody that knows how to fix this. I know there's somebody that knows how to fix this. And Mark Victor Hansen, who wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul, sent me to like 3 different best doctors in the world. And they all told me the same thing. I need surgery. And I did not want surgery. I don't know if you end up getting surgery, but I did not want surgery. And I just kept saying, I know there's somebody that knows. I know that somebody that knows. And then Joe Polish. Do you know Joe Polish?
Yes.
Joe sent me a book called The Great Pain Deceptor. I read the first 3 chapters, and then it was a book this thick. And if you know about my impatient level, I was like, that back pain is too long for me to wait till I read this book. So I found the dude on LinkedIn, talk about being resourceful, right, y'all? Like, that's leadership. I found him. I convinced him to do a call with me. 2.5 hours later, I was done the call. My back still hurt. The next day it lifted. He told me to go for a run. He said, it's going to feel like somebody's stabbing your back. Just keep running. I was like, I'm drinking California woo-woo, like way too woo-woo. I'm going to hurt myself, but I'm coachable. I followed the coaching, felt like I was getting stabbed, pain lifted, never had it again. So really, really interesting, this whole back pain thing. So keep going, Jorge, because I think this is really powerful.
Yes, I got into real estate. I started acquiring and buying properties in 2012. In 2017, I launched my first 4 Airbnbs and immediately started making a 2.5x what I was making from my long-term rentals. And then what helped us accelerate our business with this, which is this whole subleasing model, right? So subleasing is where you basically rent properties, get permission from the owners, and then you launch them on Airbnbs. And, a lot of people say, hey, why wouldn't the owner do it themselves if there's so much money to be made? And what people don't understand is we're dealing with 2 different things, right? We're dealing with the actual real estate, the land, and then the business that operates on top of the real estate. When you go to a nail salon, a barbershop, a restaurant, the people who usually own the businesses don't own the land, right? The owners, they just want that mailbox money. And that's why the owners, if we have strong credit scores, strong financials, credibility, and we present ourselves professionally, will allow us to rent their properties and then run our short-term rental business, right? It's called arbitrage. So it's like, imagine you rented a property for $2,500 a month, but then you could make $5,000 a month on Airbnb. You automate the cleaning, the maintenance, the communication. Now you're working on the business, not in the business. And this is like one of the ways that we create passive income from Airbnbs.
Let me ask you a question, Jorge. So I'm a property owner. I think I'd feel a little bit like, I don't know if I want you to,
Sure.
rent my property, that, like, how do you get around that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's going to be a numbers game, right? Whether you're a real estate agent, a flipper, wholesaling, Airbnb, it's always going to be a numbers game, just like sales. So like half of the people are going to say no, the other half are going to say yes. Sometimes like we take over like all the utilities, keep a little extra money in the landlord's pocket. We put a lot of things in writing that will take care of repairs, make sure we set up the property on auto pay, make sure we maintain a good relationship with the neighbors. But, the ones that have said yes, like we've been working with the same landlords for almost 3 years now, just renewing the leases. They start referring, the neighbors or even other properties they might have. So it's going to be a numbers game, just like anything. And some people are going to be open and some won't. But when you have this leadership that they're learning here at Hardcore, 100% is possible 100% of the time.
That's one of our slogans, guys. 100% is possible 100% of the time. So you can't take no with yourself or anybody else. That's interesting. Do you ever pay the landlord a little bit more for taking that risk?
We haven't to this point, but I would be 100% open to it because we use a couple softwares, right? Like there's one called Mashvisor and another one called AirDNA, and they allow us to see the existing performance of Airbnbs in particular areas. So imagine you were looking to buy or sublease a property, let's say in San Diego, and you're like, "Ooh, my mortgage or my rent's going to be say $4,000 or $5,000 a month." But if you see properties making double or triple that are similar and comparable in bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage, amenities, location, then you know that you can duplicate those results because people are already doing it.
You know what I find interesting about that? Because like you just shared that. And then I'm just curious, how many of you guys would have the courage to be able to execute on that? Because like just that alone, I would take that. I would go look at the software. I would look in my local area because I'm there, right? And it's close to home. And I would literally, by the time dinner time came, I will have reached out to people to rent their house. Do you get what I'm saying? Like I would do that like in seconds because I'd want to get an experience of what he's training right away. So I see some people saying yes, some people saying I wish. The truth is almost nobody will do it.
Mm.
They'll watch this training and they won't do it. And I know I'm being tough, but I'm not being negative. Because if I was being negative, I'd say that, this doesn't really work or there's all this risk on it. It's like, no, I'm being honest. You guys know it, right? You know it. And it's like, and it's like, how much information do you need to consume to realize you're not going to know stuff in the process? What if the Airbnb doesn't rent? Drop the price a little bit. Like just rent it and get some of your cash back, or get all of your cash back, or take less of a profit. Like you've got to enroll yourself on what you would do, and you just got to keep going. Because the truth is nobody has a crystal ball. And a long time ago, I stopped going to psychics and I started going to the Bible with love. And so I had no more of this crystal ball mentality that's trying to give me some sort of security for the future. I became my security. And that is, do what it takes and figure it out. There's going to be something that goes wrong, So like, for instance, we are renting our place, so it's 7-day minimum, and we have a certain higher price point on ours. I don't want any risk of parties, you know what I mean? But there might be a party. There might be. I can't stop that. Somebody might get in a fight and bust a wall in. And that's what a drywaller can come fix and repaint the wall. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like we get backed up on these conversations. So Jorge, what about in markets like California? Or I don't know, you guys, where are you guys located? Put in the chat where you're located right now. What city are you in? And so MJ's like, California, Victoria, BC. Victoria is so beautiful. Palm Beach. Okay, so UK. What if you're in an area that things get rented really quickly? Is there still possibility?
You mean like if there's not a lot of supply in order to rent properties?
Well, in California, I'm renting a place for my dad right now, and it's like there's a lot of property, but it goes pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, in general, there's a shortage of housing, right? For renters, for for buying properties, and that's part of the reason properties are so expensive right now. But I believe, just like anything, right? Like I've been to properties where I go into an open house to rent a property. There's 10 other people, but because of how I show up, the landlord picks me. And I feel like that's all the difference. The truth is, a lot of people don't invest in themselves. They don't have the leadership skills, the communication skills. And, there's a saying that says, like, I can't hear what you say because who you are speaks so loudly. And I feel that when I walk into that house, they feel my presence and they're like, you know what, like there's something about this guy. On top of that, strong credit, strong financials, got references, and they want to work with me because I've invested in myself, into the leadership. So when I walk in there, they're like, you know what, like I just met you, but I feel like I trust you.
What advice would you give somebody if they have crappy credit right now?
Again, it's not about having all the resources. It's about being resourceful. So if you don't have the credit, all you need to ask yourself is who has the credit. If you don't have the money, all you need to ask yourself is who has the money. So you can get a cosigner. Like, people get cosigners for liabilities like vehicles. Why not get a cosigner for your business? Something that's going to help you replace a 9-to-5, something that's going to help you allow you to spend more time with your kids, to travel the world, again, to live life by design. So you can get a cosigner, you can bring in a business partner. And not only that, but if you have bad credit, you should build your credit, work on your credit, because credit is like oxygen for business. You need it in order to get business lines of credit, business loans, personal loans. It's how you're going to be able to continue to grow and scale and to, accomplish all of your business dreams.
Yeah. And you guys, there's lots of credit repair companies and things like that. There's lots of them. We've brought them into our communities. It might cost you $1,000 or $3,000 or $4,000 if you have a lot of crap on your credit, and it might take 6 months for them to turn it around. But honestly, I would never stop at something like that. I would invest in something like that 100%. And the only reason why somebody doesn't invest the $2,000 or $3,000 or whatever to clean up the credit is because they don't believe this will work. You guys hear what I'm saying? And so this is why I say everything's leadership. It's like, Jorge's talking right now about the fact that somebody has the money or somebody has the credit. If you don't even have to buy the real estate, and it's kind of a numbers game. No different than finding the love of your life. I mean, some of you guys found the love of your life at 16. You're the only ones I know. You know what I mean? Like, it's like such a rare bird that finds that. Most of us have a history of dating quite a few people before we found the person that we were going to spend the rest of our life with. But yet, when it comes to making money, we feel defeated. We feel defeated because the first 5 people that you called weren't interested in subleasing. Now, when I asked Jorge, would you give them more rent? He said, yeah, I haven't had to yet. Like, that's like a strategy I put in my head right away, because I have a belief system, right? Do you guys see how I'm working with myself? I have a belief system that whether it's right or wrong, Jorge doesn't have it. So when he walks into a place, his his presence, the way he operates, the way he speaks to them is with a level of confidence because he's done this a few times. You can tell he's done this a few times, right? And so there's a level of competency with him. So when he walks in, he feels pretty competent that he's going to be able to get the house, even if there's 8 other people lined up to see the house. Where I'm going to think, well, you're asking $2,000 a month for this house. What if because I know the comps, right? I know what it can rent at. What if I give you 2,500 more a month, right? Would you be willing to do that deal with me? And if they're a yes, then I could say, okay, so here's what I do. You know what I mean? My business is. Now, would I say I'm just starting my business? No. I would say my business is, I do short-term rentals. I'm even thinking about other things. I might cut them in on the deal for the first 6 months or the first year. I'll pay you the rent and I'll give you this for the first year. But after that, I have a 3-year lease with you that I get the other 2 years and you're good. Do you know what I mean? At this 2,500 a month, rent, and you don't share in the profits in the last 2 years of the agreement. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, this is all your leadership on vision. Like, what do you see as possible? And you don't know what works until you go out there and try it. So, Jorge, what about like you own a couple properties, and I know you've created cash flow with this. I'd love you to talk about the type of cash flow that gets created with these short-term rentals. But like, did you have the cash to go? I don't know the answer to this. Did you have the cash to go and buy your first house to do this, or what happened?
Yeah. So when I started my first 4 Airbnbs in 2017, I started with 4 units that I already owned. The leases were ending, and I went into the short-term rental business because a friend of mine had told me about it. But of course, I didn't have the capital to go and buy like 5 more at the same time. So that's when I went into the subleasing model, which again, you only pay. It's just like when you rent, you pay the furniture. I'm sorry, the first month, the deposit, and the furniture, and boom. So with the same amount of money that you would buy one, you can sublease 3 to 4, and the profit is virtually the same. So you can make 3 to 4 times the cash flow. And then once you have that many subleases, which that's what my experience was, I launched 7 subleases in like 3 months. My cash flow started accelerating, and we've been buying properties for the last couple of years now. We have 8 properties that we own, 7 that we sublease, and 3 that we manage. So we have 18 short-term rentals. We're doing about $150K a month of a gross revenue from the rentals. And like, I spend probably about half an hour a week. I hired a manager that manages everybody who, operates the businesses.
Okay. What's the worst thing that you found about this model?
There's 2 things, and the solution is the same for both. Once I subleased a property in a city in Whittier, California, and 6 months into the lease, it's a very small city there compared to other cities. So they changed the ordinance one day to the next, which is very uncommon. But again, it's not about, I always say, right, don't focus, like people who focus on perfection, they wait on the sidelines for this magical moment that's never going to come. I always say, focus on progress, not perfection. Do what you can with what you have, where you are. So when they changed the lease, I was like, okay, what do I do? How do I pivot? How do I adjust, right? Because my cheese got moved. And so all I did is I put a long-term tenant for the remainder of the 6 months because I had permission to rent it to other people. Now rents had gone up because this was like right before the pandemic. Rents had already gone up in those 6 months, and the property was furnished. So I was able to charge $500 more than what I rented the property for. Not only that, I still have that property, and it's been 2 years since I've had these long-term tenants in this property making $500 a month from long-term tenants, and there's nothing to do because they just live there, right? The second possibility that could happen is, let's say that you really weren't making money. Let's say you're losing a couple $100 every month and the business model isn't working. Well, all you need to do is, again, same solution. You put a long-term tenant in there for the remainder of the lease, which you have permission to in writing. And at the end of the lease, you can collect your deposit, take your furniture to another unit, and move on. Like, those are the 2 worst things that could happen, and they're not even that bad.
They're not that bad. And so, but it's about the pivot, right? And so again, like when COVID happened, you saw people who could pivot, and people who couldn't lost their ass, right? And so somebody's saying, do you have a list of prospective tenants?
Prospective tenants, like short-term rental tenants? So we host on Airbnb, and Airbnb does all the marketing for you. So like I don't have a website, I don't do advertising, I don't do direct bookings. Everything goes through Airbnb. And just a little bit of like a recession-proof strategy here, right? Because some people are worried, like, oh, what if there's a recession, which we're probably already in right now. Well, there's four things that we do with our properties, right? We're able to attract corporate housing clients, government bookings, nurses who are traveling for work, and also relocation companies. Like right now at one of my properties, I have this family that's been there for 4 months, and a relocation insurance company paid $37,000 for 4 months. That's an average of $9,500 per month. My mortgage is $2,700. So I'm profiting, netting after rent, after mortgage, utilities, and cleaning, $6,500 a month for each of those 4 months. And again, this is not, and they are all coming through Airbnb. Like Airbnb has such a huge market share that these four strategies, they all book directly through Airbnb, and they're paying top dollar. So this is another way that you could pivot and not rely on just travelers.
It's powerful, guys, because so it's like, do you see how important it is to be in the right rooms? Right? It's so important to be in the right rooms. Okay, so what's another challenge you guys might have? What about Jorge? What would you recommend people buy real estate right now, even though the market's high?
If they have if after
I
they
know
buy,
it's a tough question.
after they launch, they still have like some cushion, like an emergency fund, I always say yes, because even if there's a correction, as long as they're focusing in the long-term vision, 10, 20 years from now, it's like almost impossible to lose, right? If you look at the last 100 years, the market's like this, but ultimately it's a straight line. And successful investors, successful entrepreneurs, like we always think long-term, because we can't control what happens in the short term. And again, if you always focus at what's going to happen in the short term, you'll end up just waiting on the sidelines because you can't figure it out. So personally, we continue to acquire properties. We're in escrow right now on a 1.1 million property in Joshua Tree. We're continuing to build the portfolio. It is important to have multiple exit strategies, right? So if there was a recession, if tourism did slow down, what would your exit or cash flow strategy be then? And because we have multiple of them, we feel confident acquiring these properties.
So what do you focus on a certain area?
Right now we're operating
By
in
the way, guys, isn't Jorge so calm? He's like so calm, cool, and collected.
San Diego, Long Beach, LA, Riverside County, San Bernardino County, and now we're breaking into Joshua Tree. So we're like in 4 or 5 different counties right now. But there's really 3 things that we do, right? Every time we want to launch a short-term rental in a certain area, the first thing we do is we call the building department in that city. And then we ask them like, hey, what is your short-term rental ordinance? Do I need a permit? If so, how do I get a permit? Do I not need a permit? Are they completely banned? And then if they tell me that I can get a permit and there's already regulation, that's the safest place to invest. Because once a city has regulation, if they make any modifications, it's usually subtle. It's typically when there's zero regulation, then anything can change and we have no idea what that is. So ideally, we want to go into cities where there's already regulation. That's like number 1. And number 2 is then we look at those softwares, right? Mashvisor, AirDNA, which is basically our comps. And we want to see like, hey, how are properties performing? How did these properties do in the last 12 months? And if I can at minimum double whatever my rent or mortgage is going to be, then boom. And then the last phase is just signing a contract if you're subleasing, or, opening escrow if you're going with the purchase.
You guys, is this not good stuff? So like, I want to keep something available to you right now. He said, go to the building department, find out the short-term lease conversations, right? He said, if they've already got regulations on that, safer than if they have none, because they're going to modify it. You're going to look at those sites. What is it? AirDNA,
Mashvisor.
Mashvisor. And you're going to see like what's the going rate for these things. You know what I mean? And so all you're doing is managing some of your emotions. So you're managing emotions because you're getting clear on what's available. See what I'm saying? And then short-term leases, subleasing, or purchase. He used subleasing to be able to get more cash flow to buy more. I constantly say, have a reason to make money. And just paying a bill, I'm sorry, many already realize that, it doesn't get your butt in gear, right? It's like, how am I going to get rich? And that's not a dirty word. How am I going to get rich? How am I going to get rich? How am I going to get rich? And when I hear people sitting around I'm just gonna be really honest. When I hear people sitting around complaining about money or saying things, and I don't know if this happens to you, Jorge, but I'm sure it does. The more money people make, the more they pull back in being connected with the rest of society that is not making the money. Why? Because they're either asked to give their money to them or they're criticized for making a lot of money. And I hate to say it, the next time you criticize somebody that's driving a Ferrari down the street, just think for a second. The reason why many of them are not your friends is because they get criticized. Imagine if somebody walked around and criticized your parenting, criticized the way you walked, criticized the way that your attitude in your job. Do you guys hear what I'm saying? They're criticized. The more money you make, the more you get criticized. People start saying things like they're all about the money. All they care about is business. And so there's this constant like pull down. I just want to encourage you to watch your belief systems around that, because just the belief system around that can have you, as you're starting to pull out, you'll hear it from friends and family. You know what I mean? Like somebody said to me like a month and a half ago, I'm just not about the money the way you are. And I was like somebody I love, I was just like, I turned around, I was like, come on, I'm one of the most generous people you know. I would give you the shirt off my back. Like I would give you my last $1,000 in a bank account. Like I'm not all about the money. I'm just reminding you of the fact that you're not doing what it takes. You know what I mean? You're afraid to make a move. You're afraid to go after it. And I am a constant reminder that I am going to do whatever it takes, because I literally feel responsible for taking care of other people. And if they're not going to do it, I'm going to do it. You hear what I'm saying? I don't want my whole family living with me in my house. And so and I could be mad about that. I'd be like, oh, now I have to make all this extra money. I could spend all that extra money on me. And it's like, no, if I was all about the money, I'd be pissed about paying for you. You get what I'm saying, you guys? So really watch that, because I'm telling you, it's a real thing. It's a real thing. The more successful people get, the more they get judged and the less they want to talk about it, because if they talk about it, they're judged. You hear what I'm saying? So Jorge actually already gave you everything you need. He gave you everything. I mean, is this about how long we talked last time?
About.
Right? I got that little piece of paper and I got it like following me everywhere. And and we're good to go. And I referred Matt to Jorge because Matt wants to get into real estate. And I was like, you got to get into real estate with this guy. You got to learn. What are some of the things you teach people doing, Jorge?
Is it okay if I share something? Because you shared something about a
Yeah.
why earlier. So I just want to share like my why, because I feel like my intention is that it helps you connect to your why. And a lot of times when we're thinking about creating financial freedom for ourselves, sometimes we need more substance. And so my why is that in 2018, we had just become pregnant. We were like 4 weeks pregnant. And my wife has two autoimmune diseases, Sjogren's and rheumatoid arthritis. At the time, she was working at the border in TJ, San Diego border. And she was working 8 to 16-hour shifts. Like she was going to be off work in about 15 minutes. And then her boss would say, hey, you have to stay for 8 more hours. And because it was government, there was nothing she could do about it. And so I knew that my wife was super, very overwhelmed and stressed out, and it was impacting her health and impacting our future baby's health. And so when I would think of, continuing to build our short-term rental and real estate empire, I thought about my family's health. And so there was no way that I was going to like not get up at 5 a.m. or not put in the extra work, because my family's health depended on it. And so I want you guys to really think and connect, like, if it's not you, like, who are you doing this for? Is it your spouse, your parents? Is it your kids? Like, do you want to buy your mom a house, your dad? Do you want to retire your parents? Do you want to travel the world? And so your why has to be connected to something that can be replaced, right? The money, the house, the cars, all those things are great, but they're more of a cherry on top. It's more about the freedom that you can create for your family. And so just think about that why.
It's so good. And I think I'll just say it needs to be bigger than you. I
Mm.
didn't really like the fact that it was like your wife and your kid. There's just this level of, if I don't do this and something happens, I'll never forgive myself. And so you're connected with the runway, and there's a short runway of having that baby. You know what I mean? There's a short runway. And then, what happens after she has the baby? There's another short runway, and so there's when you get connected with that, you move. Like you move. You guys get that? And so I just want to say there's nothing wrong with anyone. It's the fact that we haven't intimately gotten connected to these things. Jorge, you have done the leadership program. How did that support you in taking action?
Wow. I always say that, a lot of people don't move, and they're not shakers and movers, and they're not living the life that they were meant to live because they're always focusing on like external, right? So like before leadership, I was living from this victim mentality. Like I was selling drugs when I was 7, smuggling people into this country when I was 10. My dad passed away when I was 12 from alcohol, and then my mom abandoned me when I was 13. So because of all these traumas that I experienced, I always was a victim. I was like, well, because my dad wasn't here, because my mom. So when I went through leadership, I rewrote my story. It was like, you know what? Because my dad was this way, I am now this way because this is what I experienced. So in sense, it was really that belief of things don't happen to me, they happen for me. So everything that I've experienced in my life has become a stepping stone so that I could become the greatest version of myself. And leadership made this possible, rewriting my story so that I'm not a victim to my story, but so that I can stand on my story and inspire other people.
Well, I'll tell you, my experience of you is deep honor. Like my experience of you is family, the ability to just really stand and be the rock of your family to create what you're creating. And I just thank you for trusting yourself enough that you needed help and trusting leadership to be that bridge to take you to the next level. I don't know how much you know about this challenge. I know that you know that we offered leadership, but we offered leadership today at $2,200 for people to do 4 months of coaching with us. And I don't know if you got anything that you can throw in. I know you've got like a
Yeah.
3, 4 hour training,
Yes.
anything that you could throw in to help people get
Yeah.
across.
And honestly, guys, like I'll give you just a really quick example. 7 years ago, I invested $35,000 into a real estate education program. And I went through all the trainings, I went to all the symposiums, I played flights and hotels, but I still wasn't taking action. It wasn't until I did leadership that I got to the core of what was holding me back. And even though we feel like we know, you don't really know what's stopping you until you experience leadership. Because if we already knew, we'd already be billionaires in every aspect of life, in our marriages, in our health, and in our finances. So for me, leadership has been the reason why we are where we are today and how we're changing hundreds of thousands of people's lives. So I highly recommend you guys to invest in yourself, to invest in leadership. There's literally nothing else more important. It's the leverage that's going to help you, have the best health, the best relationships, the best finances. But yeah, with that being said, guys, there's a 3-day workshop. Typically it's a value of $300, and it's like an introduction to Airbnb. It's a little, maybe 3 to 4 hours. Just put your name and email so we know where to send you the access, and you guys will have lifetime access. And, Shonda asked me what I could provide. So this is my gift to you guys for getting started with the leadership today.
So good. Awesome. Well, you don't want them to put information in there. They can put information in there, but I'm going to ask you to not send them anything unless I will send you the HCL list of people. Would you be okay if we offered it to everybody who's already jumped into Hardcore Leadership?
Yes, absolutely. 100%.
Okay. So you guys don't you can put your information in there, but I'm gonna ask Jorge not to send that to you because I
I
want
will.
people to actually do the work.
Yes,
You know what I
that's the
mean?
most
Like it's
important
like
thing.
you
Yeah,
said,
I'll make sure we only send access to those who got started.
yeah, it's a great example. $35,000 who's invested in programs before and you didn't get your result? Go in the chat and say me. Who's invested in programs before and you didn't get your result? Like imagine being able to go back and take that knowledge and take action and get your return on investment. Do you hear what I'm saying? Like that's the power, because we can keep training you and teaching you, and you can keep, I used to say, well, I do say if you don't pay, you don't pay attention, but I used to say you just haven't paid enough money to pay attention. And then what I realized was there's just shit that's holding you back. And if you knew how to get underneath that and take it out of the space, like it's kind of like I know I procrastinate, or I know I second guess myself, or yeah, but you don't know because it hasn't moved yet. Do you hear what I'm saying? So if you want that weed whacker in your life, that's where leadership goes. I can't get you there without you guys doing the program. You know why? Because it's 100% experiential. Like nobody's talking to you like this. You have one exercise after another exercise after another exercise. And when you do those exercises, you will see a different variation of yourself. Like I thought, true story, I thought I was mad at my father in life. And that's why I had some challenges in relationships. I wasn't mad at my father at all. And my dad's the one who walked out on us when I was a kid. I thought every insecurity I had came from my father. It had nothing to do with my father. I just had no wiring in me that it had anything to, somehow I didn't have anything on him. He came into my life in grade 6. We've had this amazing, beautiful relationship, and he's been hugely empowering to me. It was my mother that I was angry at, the one that put in the grit. Like I always say to myself, Ori, I'm like, as much as I feel like I'm the best mom I can be, I know my kid's not getting out unscathed. Do you know what I mean? Like there's no way he's getting out unscathed. And I can't wait till the day for him to walk into the training room, and I won't be anywhere near the training room so he can do his work and get to the next level. But there's things I say, there's things that the school teacher said, who else, somebody in your life told you had great potential, but you don't apply yourself? Anybody else? Just put me, please. I want to see you right now. If you are a teacher, never say this to a kid. Never say this to a kid ever, because every kid that this has been said to, they're like, so just tell me what to do. Like they start to wear the brand, like I don't apply myself. You know what I mean? And it becomes like one of our labels. And it's really tough to get out from underneath. And you can know it logically, but you can't get underneath. And so the training in Vision and Breakthrough, it's 3 days in Vision, 4 days in Breakthrough. It has you do exercises that is all with yourself, and you're doing them. And I'm telling you, there is no amount of therapy, there's no amount of trauma work, there's no amount of counseling, and there's no amount of mentorship that will be able to get 100% result from you until you've done it. I tell every single person that I know to do it, and especially if I see somebody that's struggling in their life. But even if you're a high performer, you're going to crush it. I went and did the training a second time with my husband, and I was like, I'm just here for him. I was like, went to the whole nother level in the way, because when I did it, I wasn't in a relationship. You know what I mean? And so I got to really like take my wifeism. I wasn't a wife at the time, but I got to take my wifeism to the next level and learn how to be in team, which wasn't even an interest to me when I actually did the training. Do you see what I'm saying, guys? And here's what's amazing. Here's what I'll do for today as well. If you want to come back and audit the training, this has never been offered before. After you do the training, if you jump into Join HCL, joinhclnow.com, if you guys want to put it in the chats, right? And you guys know the URL, joinhclnow.com. If you want to do the training, here's what I'll do. If you want to come back within a year and a half of doing the training, you can audit the training. Go through it again. Do you know what I mean? I don't care if you do that in the next class or you want to do it, a year later, you can audit the training. And so this is how important this training is. As of right now, Jorge's going to throw in a 3-hour training around how to really get started in the passive income game with real estate. You could watch that tonight and you could put it in gear tomorrow if you want. Hear what I'm saying?
I'm just asking one thing. Can I please? Oh.
And there's the little man.
Excuse me.
That is a result.
Can I please?
Of taking action.
Can I please play my iPad?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
That way. I actually can't.
Yes.
Okay. I can't.
Bye. Shut the door, please. Bye. Shut the door. Shut the door. That's Zach, you guys. Can you shut the door, please? So what was I saying? The wrong time for him to break in. I completely broke the tension. Entrepreneurs never do that. But you get it. I mean, I'm not trying to convince you. I'm trying to have you take yourself seriously and go after it. You know that nothing's worked before. Why would you not get up to the plate and go after it? So Jorge threw in, his 3-hour training on how to get started with passive income. I recommend you watch it tonight. And then I recommend tonight or tomorrow, or maybe over the weekend, and then put yourself in a position where you actually start taking action on it next week. You can do HCL. Of course, I honor this for anybody who's done HCL before. The thing with bonuses is you don't get the last bonuses moving forward. But you guys who purchased earlier, you get hooked up. You see that? You get hooked up all the way through. Do you see what I'm saying? And so in addition, we are shutting down the teen program. But right now, Jorge, we've actually opened up a teen training for $2,500 that we are gifting with the Hardcore Leadership Program. I can honestly tell you, I have never made a leadership offer like this in my entire life, ever. And so that's going away as we close down the cart here. So for $2,200, or now I have a 4-pay, which means you just have to figure out how to come up with $600 right now. And I have a 4-pay where I'll finance the program for you. So you get Vision, which is 3 days, Breakthrough, which is 4 days, all done virtually. So you can be in Holland, you can be in the UK. Don't ask me the time zone, pretend like you flew to California and have jet lag for those 3 days and have jet lag for those 4 days, because that's what you would do if you flew to California. You get what I'm saying? So just work it out without having to pay a plane ticket or a hotel. Work it out for those 3-4 days, 3 days in Vision, 4 days in Breakthrough. And then you'll have 90 days in practice where you put the training to the test. You tell us what you want to create. You tell us. And if you like what Jorge just talked about, put that in practice. Be like, you know what? Maybe I don't know what I want to do as an entrepreneur, but I know I want passive income. Boom. Right there. Do the course and set a goal. Say, I don't know how you launched 4 Airbnbs in how long?
Yeah, those first 4 were in 3 months.
Perfect. What if you launched 2? What if you launched 1? What if you launched 4? You know what I mean? What if you just in practice set yourself up so that now not only do you have the wisdom of this, but you can do this at any age, right? In your local neighborhood without a bunch of overhead. You get a couple cleaners that cost you a couple $100 to clean the houses in between, and that's it. You're good to go. My point is don't put yourself in a position where you're isolated or alone. You're trying to hit goals like you've been trying to hit them in the past without the infrastructure of the program to help you be successful. Once you're successful, let me tell you, you can do anything. Because once you've crushed it in that 90 days of practice, you put yourself in a position where you feel competent. For half of you, just the act of feeling competent again would be everything. Hear what I'm saying? So I'm going to let you guys go. We're going to be on with Dean Graziosi tomorrow, which is going to be awesome. He was messaging me back and forth today. I don't know if you guys know who he is, but great pivot. When the market went crazy, he got in there and helped Tony Robbins, and now he's partnered with him. Everybody's like, God, I'd love a partnership like that. He created it. And he created out of being generous and going after it to help somebody else. You hear what I'm saying? And because he's in the right rooms with Joe Polish, he happened to know Tony Robbins. So you got to get in the right rooms, which honestly, it means you need to have the cash to do it, because the right rooms there's a rite of passage, and it's called writing a check. Okay. And that, whether you like it or not, it's just true. So you guys go to joinhclnow.com. In addition, I also gave you today, where you can come to the November mastermind. So I'll continue to teach you in business. And then in July, for 3 days while I'm sitting in Puerto Rico, I'm going to train how do you find buyers. And if you want to find tenants, which you don't need because Airbnb and vacation rental by owner does that. But I did real estate. I did over $100 million in real estate. And I had to go find the buyers and I had to find the product. And so you need buyers for anything, whether it's real estate sales, whether you're a doctor and you need patients, whether you want to start a coaching business, whether you're a financial advisor, whatever it is, I can show you how to be sold out. Who would like to be sold out? So here's what's insane. It's like so many people are like, I need to make the money, but yet the way to make the money is right here, and you're still not doing whatever it takes to get in. Just take that in. Like, it's not because there's something wrong with you, it's because there's something in the way. And that's where HCL changes the game. Go to joinhclnow.com and take care of that. Final last words, Jorge.
Final last words. When I was in leadership, I had this belief, and the belief was who I am is getting in the way of who I want to become. Sounds very logical, but through the leadership, I learned that who I had become is getting in the way of who I've always been. And that's exactly what this is, guys. You're going to find out. Again, it's the whole aspect of when you put a frog into a lukewarm water and you warm it up little by little, it dies. It doesn't even realize that it's happening because everything gets normalized, just like the pandemic and wearing a mask. Who you have become is now normal. So you have no idea how to break out of that. When you guys go through the leadership with Shonda, you will learn how to go back to who you've always been so that you can have the freedom you once had when you were 3 years old, and that everything truly does become 100% possible 100% of the time.
So good. Mic drop. Boom. All right, guys. So much love for you. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. California time. Bye.